The world is likely a safer place without the Titanoboa lurking in its shadows. These 50-foot-long, terrifying predators once ruled the world after the dinosaurs. Officially, they are believed to be extinct, but some shocking evidence suggests otherwise. Join us as we explore 15 pieces of evidence that the Titanoboa might still be alive. Number 15. Titanoboa from Russia. There have been reported sightings of living Titanoboa from Russia. These sightings are not just reported in tropical regions, but also the unlikeliest of places. A video surfaced in the Russian city of Samara in 2014 showing an enormous snake crawling down the brick exterior wall of an apartment. The video went viral at the time, with viewers insisting that they had never seen a snake as large as that, claiming that it was larger than all native species. They claimed it must have been some kind of escaped python, with some even suggesting that the snake was a surviving prehistoric monster. The climate of Samara, located on the Volga River over 1,000 miles northeast of the Caspian Sea, would likely be far too cold for a reptile evolved for the tropics like the Titanoboa. Yet this did little to stem the concern of the public about the snake's huge size. However, upon examining the video, some things did not look right. For instance, how did the residents of the apartment fail to notice an 18-foot-long python crawling past their window? Officials identified the videographer behind the compelling videos, identifying himself as Dmitry, who confessed to having manipulated the video. He is a specialist in 3D rendering and digital manipulations. Dmitry's footage showed just how much the Titanoboa still exists in people's minds and how people are ready to believe the giant snake could turn up alive in unexpected corners of the globe. Number 14. Skin from Maine. In addition to sightings of live specimens, alleged evidence of Titanoboa has also come in the form of skin casts. A snake skin found on a picturesque riverbank in the northeast United States belongs to an anaconda, the latest twist in the baffling story of Wessie, a supposedly enormous snake that has become a local legend in the town of Westbrook, Maine. Sightings of the snake began in June when a woman filed a report with the Westbrook Police Department claiming to have seen a snake as large as a truck with a head the size of a basketball. Soon thereafter, a late-shift police officer patrolling near the first sighting saw a large snake eating a mammal, possibly a beaver. And on August 20th, a man walking along the Passumpsicut River stumbled across the molted skin of a 12-foot-long snake near the other two sightings. With each sighting, the mystery deepened and the local community's fascination with its strange new mascot grew. Clothing stores began selling Wessie-themed shirts. One local brewery even made a special edition beer in honor of the snake. As media buzz grew, Westbrook officials sent a sample of the snake skin off to John Plasek, a biologist at the University of Texas at Tyler, for genetic analysis. Plasek then sequenced the skin's mitochondrial genome and found that it belonged to an anaconda, a shocking find that officials announced on August 30th. To refine the ID, Plasek sent along his sequence to Jesus Rivas, an anaconda expert at New Mexico Highlands University, who compared it to a genetic database of anacondas from across South America. In a phone call, Rivas says that the skin belongs to a female green anaconda, Eunectes murinus, that's at least 10 to 12 years old based on the skin size. The snake's genetic quirks also suggest that its ancestors were most likely from Peru or Bolivia, though the snake probably was bred in the United States. So how did the snake end up in Maine? First, it's still not clear whether the skin's placement was an elaborate hoax meant to stoke Wessie hype. But if Westbrook is legitimately home to a loose anaconda, Plasek thinks that it was released into the wild by its owners, perhaps because they could no longer care for it. Number 13. The Congo serpent. The discovery of a Congo serpent before the Titanoboa was discovered in 2009 proved that giant snakes over 40 feet long existed and inhabited Earth prehistorically. Western science knew little about massive reptiles of such size, yet reported sightings and second-hand reports of Titanoboa-sized snakes have cropped up sporadically in remote regions of the world since at least the early 20th century. It was 1959 when Colonel Remy Van Lierde arrived at the Democratic Republic of Congo and was deployed to the outpost of Kamina in the country's southeast to support ongoing operations throughout the Katanga region. One of the first pilots to break the sound barrier, he had flown in over 400 missions, so his eyes were trained to spot both friend and foe below. On one afternoon, he found himself returning from a reconnaissance mission aboard a helicopter, and as the nimble aircraft buzzed low over the extended green canopy, Van Lierde glimpsed movement. With his well-trained eyes, he signaled the pilot to double back as an immense snake slowly emerged from the body of water below, rising upright until it revealed its full height. Shocked, he and his co-pilot gaped at the serpentine monster that easily exceeded 50 feet long, its triangle head topping half a meter. This creature is still the largest snake ever documented. The body was covered in dark green and brown scales, whilst its underbelly was white. Colonel Van Lierde, amazed by the sight, directed the pilot to turn around for another angle to view this monster, and the serpent responded by raising its head to an incredible height of at least 10 feet, as if warning off a coming attack. Leard, recognizing the inherent danger in such a situation, made the quick decision to retreat, directing the pilot to return to base as soon as possible. The colonel, not one to let such an incredible encounter go undocumented, using the resources at his disposal, he expertly used an onboard camera to capture images of this giant serpent, securing evidence of its existence. As an aviation expert, he was good at guessing sizes from height. He believed that it measured 50 feet at least. And if we were to go by his estimate, that length would dwarf the largest scientifically documented snake on the record, a 25-foot-long and 300-pound reticulated python found on Indonesia's island of Sulawesi in 1912. What, then, was this Leviathan that Colonel Van Leard found? Suspecting that his account might not be believed on account of no corroborating proof, he tasked CIA operatives around the war-torn country to gather information about this elusive megasnake. These efforts unearthed a litany of supporting accounts from native testimony, indicating that this event was not an isolated one. Number 12. The Yakamana. Probably the greatest biodiversity hotspot on the planet, the Amazon rainforest has inspired many frightening legends of beasts lurking within its nearly impenetrable foliage. There have been many tales passed down from indigenous people for centuries, stories of 100-foot-long anaconda relatives they dubbed the Yakamana, or black boa. These black boas are capable of toppling whole trees in their trails. These epic snakes featured prominently in local folklore long before Western science conceived of snakes beyond 50 feet long as fantasy. In recent decades, cryptozoologists have cataloged strikingly consistent giant snake observations from remote Amazon villages and pending scientific outposts. Though easy to dismiss as imaginary or exaggerations of ordinary wildlife, characteristic details in the reports intrigued open-minded researchers. If the moa, considered extinct by so many worldwide, can survive extinction in the isolated jungles, then why can't analogous giant snakes linger on in the Amazon? The mountain gorilla remained unknown to the Western world until 1902, the Komodo dragon until 1912, and even knowledge of the Titanoboa itself remained hidden from the world until 2009. So who is to say that a handful of these giants are not hidden somewhere in some primordial jungle? American cryptid adventurer Mike Warner embarked on a journey along the jungle waterways from Peru to Guyana, and he interviewed locals and recorded testimonies swearing that enormous dark serpents overturned riverboats and decimated fisheries. In his research, researchers note that the climate of the era when the Titanoboa thrived resembles today's Amazon. This remote rainforest could be a fine holdout spot for massive snakes. Now it's time for today's topic. The post appeared briefly on Reddit's r/unresolved mysteries before vanishing within hours. According to the author, a National Geographic back team was surveying a remote forest clearing near the Lakula Swamp, northern Congo, when they found something impossible. A single, shredded snake skin stretched across the ground like a fallen bridge. It was longer than their camp, thicker than a man's torso, with scale patterns no living python should have. GPS logs placed it miles from any known anaconda range. The researchers reportedly went silent for 20 minutes, then called for immediate extraction. Equipment was left behind. No samples were taken. Locals warned them the river had woken up. By nightfall, the team was airborne, refusing interviews. The user claimed one scientist whispered a single word before boarding the chopper: Titanoboa. Number 11. The Kataba River Monster. There have been lots of elusive river monsters with reputations tracing back to both indigenous and early European settler accounts. Among settler accounts, there is one such legendary beast known as the Kataba River Monster. This legendary beast inhabits the snaking waterway, demarcating the border between North and South Carolina, leaving a trail of frightful mystery. The Kataba River flows some 220 miles from the scenic Appalachian Mountain foothills through the growing metropolitan hive of Charlotte before emptying into the man-made Lake Wylie. Before the dams and irrigation canals tamed the tempest, legends warned that it harbored an evil inhabitant, one fond of dragging its victims into the depths. Oral traditions passed down among native Catawba people reference many serpents and leeches on the scale of treacherous sea monsters. Petroglyphs etched into riverside boulders even depict outsized snakes and lend possible visual depictions, implying more than imaginary figures. Tales of capsized fishermen and scouting parties disappearing on wild shores depict a colossal river predator unrecorded by history. European frontiersmen and colonists pushing gradually inland likewise brought about stories from eyewitnesses that fed the folklore of an elusive river monster. Number 10. Ogopogo. In Canadian folklore, the Ogopogo is a lake monster said to inhabit Okanagan Lake in British Columbia, Canada. Some scholars have charted the entity's development from First Nations folklore and widespread water monster folklore motifs. The Ogopogo now plays a role in the commercial symbolism and media representation of the region. Okanagan Lake is the largest of 5 interconnected freshwater fjord lakes in the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia. Named after the First Nations people who first inhabited the area, it was created when melting glaciers flooded a valley 10,000 years ago. It stretches for 135 kilometers, 79.0 miles, and has a maximum depth of 232 meters, 762 feet, and an average depth of 75.9 meters, 249 feet. Okanagan has frozen over during 8 winters in the last 110 years. The lake monster has been mostly described as being a serpentine creature with smooth dark skin, a large body thicker than a telephone pole, and being up to 15 meters, 49 feet, in length. The monster is said to move at incredible speeds, coiling its body in vertical undulations and propelling itself with a powerful tail. Susan Allison's 1872 sighting was the first detailed Ogopogo account from a white settler. She was the first non-native person to live in the region, establishing relations with the native peoples. While driving on Highway 97 in 1968, Art Folden noticed something moving in the lake. He pulled off the road and filmed what he claimed to be footage of the alleged creature, showing a large wake moving across the water. Folden estimated that the Ogopogo was 100 meters, 110 yards, offshore. A computer analysis of the footage concluded it was a solid, three-dimensional object. Folden noticed something large and lifelike in the distance out on the calm water and pulled out his home movie camera to capture the object. A 2005 investigation conducted by Benjamin Radford with Joe Nickell and John Kirk for the National Geographic Channel TV show Is It Real? Utilized surveyor boats to find the actual distance of the alleged creature from the shore. They found that it was much closer to shore than originally thought, resulting in a reduction of actual size and speed. They concluded that it was likely a real animal, but its size had been greatly overestimated, and that it was probably a waterfowl, otter, or beaver too far away to be identified. In the 1980s, a local tourism agency offered a cash reward for a proven sighting of the beast. Greenpeace announced that the beast must be filmed and not captured. The Ogopogo was listed as an endangered species. Number 9. Jormungandr. Jormungandr, also known as the Midgard serpent or world serpent, is an unfathomably large sea serpent or worm who dwells in the world sea, encircling the earth and biting his tail, an example of an Ouroboros. As a result of its surrounding the earth, it is referred to as the world serpent. When it releases its tail, Ragnarok, the final battle of the world, will begin. The god of thunder, Thor, has an ongoing feud with the giant snake, and he once embarked on an epic quest to confront and kill the gigantic snake. Their mythic struggle is immortalized in early Nordic artworks, including rune stones in the 11th century. These ominous tales most likely served the purpose of dissuading seafarers from exploring the tempestuous Nordic seas. They might also represent ancient confrontations between the early seafaring Norse survivors from the Paleocene epoch, where snakes grew large enough to dwarf whales. Number 8. Giant Snake Rock. Naka Cave itself is reportedly home to several myths and legends, many of them imagined due to a part of the cave that looks strangely like a serpent. There is a specific stone slab that resembles a python's head, while giant rocks with scaly texture look as if they're the snake's coiling body. In Buddhist lore, the giant snake rock takes after the mythological snake called Naga. A Naga is said to be half human and half snake, dwelling in the netherworld and occasionally taking the form of a human. Legend has it that the Mekong River in northeastern Thailand and Laos was created by 2 Naga kings, slithering in the area that's now part of the Pha Tame National Park. If we're to stay faithful to the legends of yore, then just maybe the Snake Rock might have been one of the Naga kings. Another theoretical folklore that attempts to explain the giant snake rock is less cultural but a bit more daring. Some tourists speculate that the giant rock was once a Titanoboa petrified due to volcanic eruptions. A Titanoboa, as you might already know, is considered to be the largest snake ever to roam the earth before its extinction. Given the size of the snake rock, this theory isn't hard to imagine. But alas, there is a scientific explanation for everything. According to Pha Tame National Park officials, the giant snake rock is made up of sun-cracked rocks that are more than 100,000 years old. The sharp temperature differences between day and night cause the rock to expand, contract, and eventually crack. Matched with water erosion, the scale-like pattern of the giant snake rock was eventually formed. According to local legends, a monstrous snake emerged from the surrounding wilderness during a violent volcanic eruption. Number 7. The Titanoboa discovered. The Titanoboa was first discovered in the early 2000s by the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, who, along with students of the University of Florida, recovered 186 fossils of the Titanoboa from La Guajira in northern Colombia. This snake lived after the dinosaurs died out and has sparked a lot of interest. It was discovered and described in 2009 as Titanoboa cerriginensis, the largest snake ever found. In Cerrigen, Colombia, the fossils they uncovered revealed a beast that could grow a staggering 42 feet long and weighed over a ton. Based on the structure of its vertebrae, the Titanoboa belongs to the boa family of snakes, which includes modern-day anacondas and boa constrictors. But unlike even the largest anacondas today, which reach over 5 meters long, the Titanoboa was an absolute monster. Its dark coloring likely aided its camouflage abilities, allowing this ambush predator to blend into the shadows. While the Titanoboa existed over 60 million years ago in the Paleocene epoch, well before humans, that does not make imagining an encounter with this giant any less terrifying. The idea that a snake larger than a bus could be lurking somewhere evokes dread, and there have been alleged modern sightings of massive snakes that have led some to speculate whether or not the Titanoboa might be alive. Number 6. Titanoboa at the park. Claims of Titanoboa sightings in unexpected places have stirred excitement in the field of cryptozoology, with one particular video from 2016 catching widespread attention. It showcased a large snake-like figure moving beneath a pedestrian bridge in Florida's Big Cypress National Preserve. The creature's enormous size, seemingly surpassing any known alligators or invasive Burmese pythons in the Everglades, captivated viewers upon its release. Experts in Titanoboa lore quickly examined the footage for authenticity, eager to expose another fabrication. Meanwhile, park officials conducted their own investigation, estimating the size of the snake from the footage and checking for similar sightings. As the initial excitement waned, they concluded that the park's largest snakes, some being notably large Burmese pythons, did not exceed 16 feet in length, a size already observed within the preserve. The episode with the video served as a small-scale reflection of the broader Titanoboa mystique, a cycle of speculation fueled by human imagination, later tempered by factual evidence. Nevertheless, the notion of a 16-foot python capable of consuming adults lurking in Big Cypress is a terrifying prospect in itself. Moreover, the possibility remains that in the depths of the world's remote jungles, a creature as awe-inspiring as Titanoboa might still be waiting to be discovered. Number 5. Fish-eater of Uttarkhand. Uttarkhand, the tropical climate prevailing among much of the Indian subcontinent, closely resembles the hot, humid environment that once hosted the Titanoboa. Home to about 500 types of snakes, the region's dense jungles teem with serpentine life forms, from the king cobra to the tiny blind snake barely exceeding 4 inches in length. India's snake diversity spans the spectrum. But something strange is happening there. Beneath the soaring Himalayan peaks along India's northern border, a remote village wrestles with an aquatic bounty they relied upon for ages. The river that once provided the people with ample fish daily now returns nothing. Fishermen's returns went from over 100 kilograms to just below 5. Monitoring stations reported a plunging 94% reduction in only a few seasons. This has caused elders to convene to demand explanations, and some dark rumors of the true culprit have begun to emerge. Some Naga elders believe it is a colossal serpent deity from Buddhist and Hindu folklore, known to gorge on entire schools of fish. Mythic accounts describe Naga as spanning over 50 feet in length, requiring ritual tribute to temper its divine hunger. What could gorge on an entire school of fish? If primordial snakes like the Titanoboa still exist, then it would make perfect sense that something like it is the one feeding on the fish of these rivers. Number 4. New species of anacondas found. Chief Pitiwi's team led Fry's team on a 10-day search for the anacondas, which are considered sacred to the tribe. The team took canoes downriver in the Baihwari region, where they found several anacondas lurking in the shallows, lying in wait for prey. Fry said the group then captured several specimens of the species, which they named the Northern Green Anaconda. Researchers in the Amazon have discovered the world's largest snake species, an enormous green anaconda in Ecuador's rainforest that split off from its closest relatives 10 million years ago, though they still nearly look identical to this day. A video shared online shows the scale of these 20-foot-long, 6-meter-long reptiles as one of the researchers, Dutch biologist Freek Vonk, swims alongside a giant 200-kilogram, 441-pound specimen. According to a study published in the open-access journal MDPI Diversity, the animal known as the green anaconda, or Eunectes murinus, is 2 genetically distinct species. This is despite each species looking so similar that even experts can't tell them apart. Genetically, the differences are massive, says Brian Fry, a National Geographic explorer, biologist at the University of Queensland in Australia, and co-author of the new study. Northern and southern green anacondas have long been considered part of the same species, but based on the snakes Fry's team studied and documented on their trip to an incredibly remote part of the Ecuadorian Amazon, it appears the snakes are 2 genetically distinct species. They're 5.5% different genetically. Now to put that into context, we're about 2% different from chimps, he says. To make the shocking discovery, Fry and his co-authors collected blood and tissue samples from green anacondas in Ecuador, Venezuela, and Brazil, a process documented exclusively by National Geographic for their upcoming Disney Plus series Pole, to Pole with Will Smith. The study authors also examined each animal closely to count scales and look for other physical traits that could signal an evolutionary divergence. While it may seem like splitting hairs to reclassify two populations of snakes that look identical to one another, Fry emphasizes how important such delineations can be for understanding the threats posed to these creatures. Right now, the International Union for Conservation of Nature classifies the green anaconda as a species of least concern when it comes to extinction risk. But this classification is based in part on how widely distributed a species is. According to National Geographic, green anacondas are non-venomous constricting snakes native to South America and are members of the boa family. The reptiles are considered the heaviest snakes in the world. On average, they live up to 10 years in the wild. Maybe, just maybe, this new species of anaconda is just a Titanoboa that has not fully grown yet. Number 3. Giant snakes in mythology. Mythological narratives have long hinted at the existence of gigantic snakes, a concept only corroborated by modern science with the discovery of Titanoboa through fossil evidence. This suggests that massive serpents, possibly rivaling the size of dinosaurs, once roamed the prehistoric Earth, a notion reflected in the ancient stories of many cultures. These mythologies often feature snake gods of immense size and power, which, despite their symbolic nature, suggest that legends of such mythological serpents could be rooted in the ancestral recollection of Titanoboa, preserved and passed down through oral tradition over thousands of years. Ancient Sumerian texts mention the Meshusu serpent, purportedly over 300 feet long, taking years to move past any point in the landscape. Persian legends talk of Azidahaka, a massive king cobra predating mammals, capable of swallowing cows whole with its dark, endless jaws. A legend more closely mirroring Titanoboa comes from Norse mythology, which presents Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, large enough to encircle the earth and bite its own tail. Legend has it that Thor once attempted to slay this enormous creature during a sea fishing adventure, but was unable to defeat it. This epic battle, along with other tales, might have discouraged maritime voyages across the icy Nordic seas, possibly reflecting ancient Norse encounters with relic Titanoboa-like creatures from the Paleocene era when snakes could grow as large as whales. The warmer climate of that epoch, especially in the seas between Greenland, Iceland, and Norway, which remained temperate due to the Norwegian current, could have supported marine life upon which a creature like Titanoboa might have preyed. It's speculated that a few of these serpents might have found refuge in the Nordic fjords and coastal areas as the planet cooled, eventually becoming the sea monsters and krakens of folklore, their existence fading from fact to fantasy over time. This blending of myth and reality underscores the profound impact that serpents have had on human imagination and fear since the dawn of time. Titanoboa in particular embodies the quintessential unknown threat, a testament to the enduring power of myth to convey lessons about the impermanence of even the mightiest creatures. Number 2. The Nabao from Borneo. The unveiling of Titanoboa, a colossal prehistoric serpent discovered in 2009 in a Colombian coal mine near Sarajevo, has fueled both fascination and fear. This enormous creature, dating back over 60 million years to the Paleocene epoch post-dinosaurs, stretched up to 42 feet in length and weighed more than a ton based on its unearthed fossilized vertebrae. Titanoboa is a member of the boa family, which encompasses today's anacondas and boa constrictors. However, with its unprecedented size far surpassing the largest known anacondas of today that reach up to 5 meters, Titanoboa was in a league of its own. Its likely dark coloring would have been perfect for camouflage, enabling it to ambush prey from the shadows of its lush tropical environment. Though Titanoboa roamed the earth well before humans, the mere thought of such a gigantic snake existing undetected today strikes a chord of primal fear. Modern accounts of enormous snakes, including reports from Borneo, prompt speculation about the possibility of Titanoboa survival into the present. Number 1. The Leviathan. Leviathan, in Jewish mythology, is a primordial sea serpent. Its source is in pre-biblical Mesopotamian myth, especially that of the sea monster in the Ugaritic myth of Baal. In the Old Testament, Leviathan appears in Psalm 74 verse 14 as a multi-headed sea serpent that is killed by God and given as food to the Hebrews in the wilderness. In Isaiah 27 verse 1, Leviathan is a serpent and a symbol of Israel's enemies, who will be slain by God. In Job 41, it is a sea monster and a symbol of God's power of creation. Today, the Leviathan is considered a mythical beast. However, we must put the Leviathan and its sea monster predecessors in context to the times in which their stories were told. Dating from at least 3,500 BC, serpent deities appeared in ancient Mesopotamian stories, depicted on clay tablets and other formats, It would be another 3,000 years before the science of marine biology began to take form around 350 BC, when Aristotle began to write about marine life, such as noting that whales and dolphins were mammals. And even then, people still knew very little about the creatures that lurked beneath the ocean's surface. Certainly, when the Old Testament was written sometime between 1200 and 165 BC, the world looked very different from the way it does today. To begin, wild animals were far more plentiful than they are now, so early seafarers likely saw many more whales and other marine life than we see today. In addition, people undoubtedly saw far more dead whales, squids, snakes, octopi, and other marine life washed up on shores than we do in modern times. Furthermore, they most likely saw more dinosaur fossils. All of this coupled with a dearth of scientific understanding left much to the imagination. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.